Welcome to the Date Forever podcast. Keep your relationship fueled up with strategies discovered by couples and experts. Because at Fuel Collective, we believe better relationships will equal a better world. You are about to discover specific insights and tools that cost little or nothing to implement to help you date forever. And now, here are your hosts, a couple who always have a half-packed suitcase and a date night in the calendar, Sammy and Nathan Yeager.
Hello and welcome to Date Forever. In this week's episode, we're chatting about the on-again, off-again, what are we doing relationship story of Duncan and Nicola, what happened when they both let go of their fears, lent in with full vulnerability and backed their relationship, how Duncan and Nicola are making an incredible contribution to the UN Global Goals through their non-for-profit Classroom of Hope, and the trials and triumphs of working together as a couple. But before we get into that, Sammy, what's been fueling you up this week?
The thing that has been fueling me up the most.
Yeah.
I am reading this book called Believe It by Jamie Kern-Lima, who's the founder of It Cosmetics. And I saw her speak at Tony Robbins' Unleash the Power Within event a few weeks ago, and she just spoke so beautifully that I was like, I think I bought the book like on the spot.
I think you did, didn't you? Yeah.
But I've been reading it, and her story is amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I keep walking, because I do most of my reading via Audible, so I listen. So I keep walking into the house, like, bawling in tears.
I think you've done it, like, 3 or 4 times now. And, I've just found you, walked out into the kitchen or somewhere and found you bawling your eyes out. And I'm like, what's wrong? And you're like, no, it's just the book.
It's just this book. Yeah, I'm really, I'm a sucker. I love biographies, and I especially love them when they're audible and read by the author, because there's so much emotion behind the story. But yeah, we saw her speak, and even just that slither of her story really got me intrigued. So if anyone's looking for a bit of a entrepreneurially minded woman who is just a boss, not in the hashtag girl boss kind of way, but just truly has demonstrated grit and resilience and determination and overcoming so many adversities, and to really make an impact and change the beauty industry, it's really inspired me. Yeah, she's amazing. And I'm not even finished the book yet. But yeah, I've just been loving reading this book this past week.
Yeah, you've been doing lots of reading, haven't you?
Yeah. What about you, Nath? What fueled you up this past week?
I don't know. This week's been a bit of a struggle, actually. I don't know, everything's feeling very same. And so I think the only thing that's kind of fueled me up is just some of the variety that we've been getting through our cooking. We've done it a couple of times now, but we've kind of nailed the Vietnamese pork at home, which has been really freaking delicious. And we live in a suburb that's full of Vietnamese restaurants, and I think we've got this pretty nailed. And I think that's the one thing that we've kind of been able to come together and do together as a couple and cook, and yeah, that's kind of getting us a little bit of variety without getting out of the house. So yeah, that's what's been fueling me up.
And it's delicious.
It sure is. But now here's this week's guests.
Today we've got Duncan Ward and Nicola Courtin joining us. Duncan is the founder and CEO of Classroom of Hope, with 23 years experience working in various different leadership, consulting and executive management roles in the corporate and not-for-profit sector. Duncan changed his life direction when he founded Classroom of Hope in 2012, a for-purpose not-for-profit organisation providing access to life-changing education to children in developing countries. Duncan loves to surf, learn about cryptocurrency and hang out with Nicola and their 2 little girls. Nicola is the co-founder and creative director for Classroom of Hope. She joined Duncan in building Classroom of Hope in 2013. Nicola uses her passion for storytelling and creating inspiring content to bridge the gap between donors and the impact they help to create. She has degrees in journalism, socio-cultural anthropology, and English. She has a passion for people, travel, and cultures. When she's not working for Classroom of Hope, she loves to run, study astrology, do yoga, and hang out with Duncan and their 2 beautiful daughters. Welcome to the show, you two.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us.
Oh, we're super excited to have you here.
Hey, what that intro kind of alluded to was that you both have 2 beautiful daughters, but they're the same daughters. You're actually in a relationship.
Yes, the same daughters.
Yes, exactly.
How long have you 2 been together?
Well, that's a bit of a Complicated answer, actually. I guess officially, we made things official in 2014 when I moved from Canada to Australia, and we decided to finally, after kind of 4 years of back and forth, decided to actually give our relationship a solid go. And then we were married legally in early 2015, and then had a big, fun, family and friends wedding in May 2016.
Wow.
Yeah,
So it's been a journey.
We first met in 2010.
Okay, tell us a little bit about that. How did you meet?
We met in Laos, backpacking. I was on a bus.
This is on my bucket list, this place. I want to do the down the river in the donut.
Yeah, we did that together.
Venentine? I can't remember the place.
Vieng.
Okay.
Sorry, I've hijacked his story because I'm already excited.
We were both on the same bus, and I was actually sleeping at the time that Duncan spotted me. But
That's a little creepy.
A lot of people might think that's creepy, but there's a side story to that. I was sitting a little bit further back on the left-hand side next to a mate, and I could see her side profile, and all I said to my mate was, "That girl looks really pretty." And he looked at me and went, "Stop being such a creep."
A literal sleeping beauty.
So look, I spotted Nick. I thought she was a really pretty girl. I was backpacking, traveling through Southeast Asia. And there was a halfway point where we stopped and I got out and I was like, oh, I've got to make eyes with this girl somehow. And went out and she kind of hopped off the bus, locked eyes. I got nothing back. And I just thought, wow, she's really pretty. And when we got to the destination, Vang Vieng, where you do the tubing, etc., I had gone to this treehouse hostel, and I'd been traveling for about 4 months, and it was really hot and humid. So my friend, who I was traveling with, Johnny Drinks, who's also from Canada, we said, let's go find a place that's got a little bit more aircon, and let's spend a little bit of extra money because we've been on the go for quite a while. So just as we were leaving, the two, Nicola and her friend, came walking into the same place, and they said, why are you leaving? And I said, we've actually found a better place up the road that's a little bit more cooler. And they asked if they could come and check it out. And I said, sure. And they came and checked it out and they liked it as well. So they stayed at the same place. I then invited them to come and join a whole bunch of us travelers to have some lunch. And they joined us and we got into some cool conversations. And Nick had actually had her bank card swallowed up by one of the ATMs, so she didn't have any cash. So I offered to pay and give some money to help out. And then we kind of partied for 4 days, had a lot of fun, and the whole buckets and backpacking fun.
Yeah, Southeast Asia holds a very fond place in our hearts.
And we'll be back there as soon as we can be.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we had 4 days together, right? And we had a few evenings where we were chatting and we just had amazing conversations on all different levels about, we had a lot of things in common about our families and life in general. And and then we just had one evening where we were at a party and, one thing led to another and we may have had a little kiss on that night. Well, actually a big kiss. It was nice. And and then we, after that trip, I mean, I thought Nick was an amazing woman and I just thought, wow, I just have to do what I can to be with this girl. But our lives were going in such different directions, and she went on her way and I went on my way in terms of traveling around the region. And I never forget, Johnny Drinks looked at me and he was like, you had a little bit of fun. You're probably not going to see her again in your life. And I said, I still joked with him. He still can't believe we're married today with kids. And I said, I'm going to marry that girl one day. And and then we went on our separate ways. And I mean, it's quite a long story. But after that, we just kept in contact as friends. She was living in Australia at the time, a little bit of controversy with the boyfriend at the time. And
what happens in Southeast Asia?
Oops.
True love is born. That's what happens.
Yeah, that's what happens.
We always just kept in contact as friends, and we would always just check in with each other. How's it going? What's happening? But I 100% had intent. I really wanted to get more connected with her and see how I could be with her. But, she was with someone else, and obviously I had to respect that. And out of the blue...
Just a side note, that was a very complicated relationship. So it's not like I was like, oh, I'm so unsure. It was just this really, really complicated relationship.
Sprinkled with some more complexity with an overseas love interest.
Yeah.
I love it. I love the honesty.
So we... one day, I was still working in corporate then. I hadn't really started the charity, and I was working a contract living in Brisbane by myself. And I had a message from Nick saying, "Hey, how's it going? Happy birthday."
It was your birthday.
My birthday, wishing me for my birthday over Facebook. And I said, "Oh, thanks. Where are you? Are you engaged yet?" And obviously I was fishing. She responded saying, "Actually, I've just arrived back in Toronto from Australia, and my boyfriend has broken up with me, and I'm a bit distraught because I really wanted to stay in Australia on her visa." So I was fist pumping. She was obviously quite upset. And I said, "Well, why don't you come back?" And she couldn't because, you'd landed there and you were set up. And I threw the gauntlet out and I said, "Look, I can have you back in 4 days if you'd like. I'm happy to pay for your flight. I'm living here by myself. I could use the company, give you some time to get over your boyfriend, and we can travel up the beautiful east coast of Australia together."
Totally innocent intentions. Just to help this poor girl with a broken heart.
I don't deny my agenda. I'll just put that on the table right there. And Nick said to me, "You're crazy." And I said, "Well, sometimes you got to do crazy things in life, right?" And I said, "You can say no right now, and I'll completely respect that, 100%. And,
I didn't say no.
She didn't say no. 4 days later, she was on a flight. She landed in Brisbane, and she moved in with me in the room downstairs, and she never spent a single night in that room downstairs.
This love story is amazing.
It is.
I love this so much.
It gets a little bit, Nick was supposed to be flying back to Canada to study her postgraduate in journalism. So we had this 4 months together, and it was epic. We had the most amazing time. So much fun, just hanging out. We weren't taking everything too serious in terms of our emotions with each other. We knew in our minds that at the 4-month part, Nick's going to have to go. And I have to crack on with my life. And so we knew that was coming. So we kind of just said, let's just enjoy ourselves. Let's not go too down the rabbit hole. And when it came to Nick having to leave and go back, she got accepted by this, top university. I didn't want to be that guy that stops someone from chasing their dreams or wanting to achieve something, and I knew how important that was to Nick, despite how much in love I was with her, and from the get-go when she was there. And then when she left, prior to her leaving, we both realized, wow, this is actually quite a strong connection, but this is about to go in different directions again. So I was sad, she was sad, and Nick went on our way back to Canada, and the final words were, let's just leave it to the universe, and maybe one day we're meant to be together if our paths meet again, but had the most amazing time with you. And then she went her way, and we hardly spoke for 2 years after that. It was occasional keeping in contact, and I always thought about her. And I had founded Classroom of Hope, and then I started the charity journey and started missioning with that. And then Nick got a job. She was a TV reporter in the CFL, like the Canadian NFL football league there. So she was really kicking off a career in journalism. She had finished her degree, which was amazing. And then
you invited me to a wedding, your cousin's wedding in...
I first invited you to Cambodia twice.
And I couldn't come.
And you denied me.
I couldn't come because of work. I was working and I couldn't just come to Cambodia.
I'm just joking.
You've set the precedent though, Nick. Last time he asked and you came in 4 days. So he kind of had a pretty... He was assuming the pattern would work.
That's true.
Yeah.
But yeah, eventually actually he invited me to his cousin's wedding in the UK, and it was perfect timing because I actually had a holiday right in the middle of the 2 weeks that he invited me to go. And I was like, yeah, okay. And it's kind of probably then that we really solidified everything. We had the best time with his family. I was meeting the parents, the sister, the cousins, the aunts, the uncles. Like, I just got thrown into this huge South African wedding. I'm like from a family of like 3, so I was just thrown into this, huge, amazing week of a like party wedding. And we had so much fun. And one day, Duncan and I were sitting in this little coffee shop where were we?
Yorkshire.
In Yorkshire. And, I just said to him, I was like, what am I doing here? Like, why am I here? What's going on? And he told me that he loved me.
Yes.
I was a bit shocked. And
I still got nothing back. Throw me a bone. Give me something here.
You can see who the romantic is in our relationship.
Yeah. But the thing is, Duncan had been in love since he saw you sleeping on the bus. So
I had to work.
But that was, I guess, when I really realized, like, okay, a decision needs to be made here. Again, I went back to Cambodia. He went back to Australia. And we really kept in touch this time and really started developing like an online relationship, because it was all like through text and everything else. And then I did go to Cambodia with him a few months later and saw the projects, fell in love with everything that he was doing, realized that the reason I got into journalism had nothing to do with sports. It had everything to do with exactly what was happening right there. I realized not only what an amazing team we could be in work, but in life. That Christmas, he came to spend with my family in Canada and help me pack up my life. And I was in Australia with him by early January.
That's the nice version. There's a little piece of information that's missing there. Is we actually had an argument the night before we left Cambodia, and she went her way, and really wanted to make it work. But Nick had a career. Like, she had her apartment, everything there. She had a lot to give up, and I still total kudos and respect that you sacrificed all of that to take a chance in this relationship, because I was running a charity. I had a promise I needed to honor to these communities in Cambodia. Otherwise, I would have dropped everything and gone to Canada, no problems, to be with her. But I couldn't. I had that responsibility. So, and I was saying, just take a chance in life, come over. And we had a bit of a disagreement, and it was a bit of a sad...
I was freaking out.
You were freaking out, which is understandable, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, because you were giving up everything to go on the line. I've got all the skin in the game here if it falls over.
But I mean, to Duncan's point, a big thing that we did realize when we were in Cambodia together is that we had skill sets that we could bring together, not just in our personal relationship and in our, personal life, but that we could actually really build something together, work-wise, career-wise. And that had to happen in Australia. It was an Australian-based charity, much closer to Southeast Asia where our projects were. It made total sense.
Yeah.
But I needed my like freak out moment. And I suppose I just needed him to understand how much I was giving up.
Totally. And I got that. Like, I went back to Perth, and I've got my, I guess, guidance counselor or Reiki master that I see once a month. And I called her up and I said, I've tried so hard. I've tried to be persistent. I really want to be with this girl, but I don't think it's going to work out. She's got her life and everything. And I still remember Sarah saying to me, just call her one more time. And I called Nick from Perth, and I said, look, sorry, that ended a bit sour with us going in our different directions, but I appreciate you've got a lot to give up, and that's not easy. So maybe we can still at least just be friends, because there's a cool connection that we've got. And I asked her one more time. I said, do you still want to maybe come? And to my shock, she actually said, I'll do it. And that's when everything changed. But she said, I've got some conditions. You've got to come over here, meet my family, help me out. And then we went traveling again on the way back to Australia afterwards. Yeah, I was in the fast lane, and Nick, she's a bit more conservative, take it a bit more slower and ease into these things. We got engaged after a very short period of time as well.
Well, I guess it depends where you measure from.
Correct.
Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah. So that's our very long
No, it's
story.
beautiful. So we've got a Canadian and a South African Aussie who did long distance, met in Southeast Asia, did long distance again, and now you both live in Cambodia.
No, now we both live in Bali.
Oh, sorry. Okay, so relocated and gave it a go in Cambodia and now living in Indonesia.
Yeah.
Yes.
Got engaged in Cambodia and married without us even knowing that they were marrying us.
Yes.
even that.
Oh no.
Oh, well, lucky it worked out.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
All right. So, what a journey. I'm sure there's so many lessons that you both learned about yourselves as individuals, but then also as the strengths that you have as a couple, and then the strengths that you have that you've now translated into making some real impact in the world. So maybe just from each of you, like, what was the big lesson, up until that point of maybe getting engaged? What was the big thing that you learned?
Probably the biggest thing I learned is that persistence pays off. It was a hard slog, and it was definitely falling in love from my side for the first time when I saw her, and I just thought she was just an amazing chick, and really wanted to get to know her. But next back, she was in a different mindset, and appreciating that it's not always going to be love at first sight between two people, and if it's not coming from the other direction, it's okay. Persist. Give it a try, see where it goes. You've got nothing to lose. And it worked out for me anyways.
I think it's persistence with intuition, like that you knew, you had a knowing.
Following your gut. Yeah. Following your heart. Yeah.
I guess for me, it would be like letting go. I had so much in my mind around, I don't know, the plan, my plan, which like looking back on is hilarious because nothing, if I could have spoken to myself 10 years ago, and been like, oh, like, this is how it's all going to work out, I would have been like, that's crazy. But if I hadn't just surrendered to the fact that there was something bigger than my plan happening, I wasn't able to see that. And like, I almost didn't see that so many times, or that I could see it, but it was too scary or it was too big or, but I knew in my heart what I wanted to do and what I needed to do. And honestly, like my life right now, I can't imagine it being any different. And if I hadn't decided in that moment to get on the plane and go and, try this out, I've missed out on so much. So
those two monkeys that we've got.
Yeah. They're girls. They're not real monkeys. They're actual.
So Duncan, I want to go back to something that you were talking about earlier in that you said you were working in corporate before you started Classroom of Hope. So like, what was the transition for you? Like what made you want to start the charity in the first place?
So in 2008, my brother passed away tragically in South Africa. And I was working in the corporate world. I was working for mining companies as a management consultant in technology, various different roles. And at that point in my life, I was very much working for myself and for the things in life. I wasn't really giving anything back to helping other humans or helping the planet. So I asked myself some big questions, like, is this really what I want to be doing? And I was working really hard hours and earning great money. And I learned a lot. I don't want to take anything away from those roles. Like I learned, every experience is a learning. But it wasn't me, and I wasn't very happy. And I ended up, quitting and going and traveling through Africa and through Asia, South America by myself, just with an intention of trying to find a bit more purpose and meaning for myself or finding a gateway to give back. And on that journey, I'd met this man in Cambodia, Raki, who's this amazing Cambodian man who's an ex-child slave who'd survived the Pol Pot regime, who had started a small NGO. And his name is in the Lonely Planet. For those who have read Lonely Planets, that's not there anymore. And he took me around and showed me what happened in that country. And he took me into these villages that had all these schools that were destroyed. And I asked him what his dream was for these communities. And he said his dream was to build better infrastructure, the better schools to get the kids back into school. And in my search for a bit more purpose, I feel the universe brought this man into my life. So I promised him that I would come back on a larger scale to help him redevelop all of those schools. That's how Classroom of Hope was born. So then I started put my management consulting hat on, started researching how do you set up a charity in Australia? What are the different business models? How do you execute international development? Should you partner with NGOs? What are the role of NGOs? How do you build capacity for a local organization that doesn't have capacity? And that started the journey of building capacity for Raki and his organization, forming partnerships in those countries, starting Classroom of Hope, and trying to raise funds to redevelop those schools. And in 2017, we had developed all of those schools, and we'd honored a promise. But Nick and I learned on that journey that this wasn't about a promise anymore. This was about the global education crisis. And, 250 million kids globally can't read or write. And, 166 million girls don't have access to school. And how can we use this as a vehicle to give children access to school by providing the right infrastructure in rural communities? And so that's how Classroom of Hope started. The first 3 years, setting up Classroom of Hope, I was working we were both working both jobs and working on the weekends and nights. And then we were burning out. So we took a leap of faith and we left Australia. We moved to Bali to cut our costs because we're closer to the region, traveling with our work. And we were only earning 18 grand a year each as well. So we could survive on that and live quite comfortably. We chose to do that and go full time. And then since then, we've scaled the organization from back then, what was, the beginning was 50 grand a year to all the way to $1 million a year, and 77 schools and 22,000 kids now after 9 years. So it's been quite a journey, a very humbling one. And I'm grateful for all the learnings and the experiences along the way, and for, the supporting rock that is the co-founder with me, Nick, in everything she's done to help me on those challenging days and vice versa.
Duncan, there's so much in that I want to ask you about. But first of all, I'm really sorry to hear about your brother. But
it's okay.
I do love that you took that opportunity to dig deeper and go, well, what is this life? It could end tomorrow. What do I want to do with it?
Yeah, my brother passing, to me, I look at that, the greatest thing that came out of my brother passing is I found my purpose. And I'm grateful for that, and that I just have so much gratitude for that. It changed my life direction completely, and I couldn't be more happier. So,
And really, it's kind of his legacy in a way. A legacy to Gareth.
That honored him, built a school in his name. And
because we don't know that Classroom of Hope would exist if it hadn't been for that really tragic time. So we think of him often in the work that we do and in reflection of how many kids we've been able to help. It's kind of along the journey with us.
Yeah, it's really beautiful. Hey, Nathan and I really care about this, and this being the global education crisis. You know far more about the complexities of this problem and the scale of this problem. I know you touched on a few of the little things there, but from what I know about education, it's one of the fastest ways we can bring individuals and communities and countries up and above that poverty line. So I would love to know a little bit more about the scale of the problem that you're solving.
I mean, you're spot on. That's the main reason, or, one of the driving forces behind why we're so passionate about this, because we've actually been able to see firsthand over the years how having an education helps to lift people and then families and communities, out of poverty. And it's particularly true for young women and girls. Duncan's way better. He's like an elephant and remembers every stat known to man. What is it? How many?
5 out of poverty.
Right. So for every one woman who's educated, they'll lift 5 other women out of poverty or humans. Yeah. It doesn't necessarily have to be 5 other women, but 5 other people out of poverty with them. So, for a long time in the work that we've done, we focused on women and girls and scholarships, in particular, getting girls who thrived through, primary all the way through high school, to get tertiary degrees in STEM subjects. So science, technology, engineering, and maths. And that was an amazing program. And we actually got to see these young women graduate from these programs, land a well-paying job, and then every time we'd interview them, or every time we'd, communicate with them, because that's a big part of what we do as well, is closing that loop back for our donors to tell them the story of what they've helped us to achieve. All of them would say, now that I have a well-paying job, I'm going to help my younger sister or my younger brother, or my, I'm going to put them through school. I'm going to make sure that they get this. And it's just so true that if people are educated, they have the opportunity to not only lift themselves out of poverty, but everybody around them. And that just keeps expanding and growing. It's like a domino effect. So we really have seen that over the course of the years that we've been doing this work. And it really is a huge driving force of what keeps us going. Because there are days that are really hard. And, there are days that we're just sitting behind our computer and we don't actually see what we're really doing firsthand, But then when we get to go to the field and we get to hear these stories, it reminds us of the importance.
Yeah, so important. And like those STEM girls, like I can see all of their faces. They've all graduated. They're all in jobs. They're such amazing young women. And hearing their stories and how emotional they got, like they were living in little straw huts in the middle of nowhere in Cambodia. And now they're, in these jobs thriving. Obviously we're in a pandemic, but to me, that's the outcome. When I saw those girls grade, both Nick and I, we sat down, we had a glass of wine. We were like, that is the outcome. That is what we're trying to achieve, is allow these people to be thriving citizens in their own country. Like I said to Nick, imagine out of the 22,000, 1 or 2 of those girls or boys become prime ministers of their countries and are able to create systemic change from within their own country. Like that is extraordinary. So that's why we're such big believers in hope and what hope stands for.
And Duncan, if you put your management consulting hat back on, that's a bloody good return on investment. Invest in one and they lift up 5 others. Like, no brainer.
Every dollar that's invested in education will return $15 in GDP value. Wow. So economic return, which is significant.
Yeah, incredible.
It's about opportunity. So many of these children are just like, they want to go to school. They really want to go to school. And it's hard to believe that like in some countries, there's kids that just like, it's just so normal. It's so normal that it's like, you've got a school and you go to it 5 days a week and it's just what's done. Like in a lot of these areas, like kids dream of having this opportunity. And then when they get it, they work so hard, like they never miss school, even if they have to walk, like some kids have to walk like 5 kilometers to their nearest school. We try to get them bicycles through another scholarship program to make it easier. But, they'll do the walk in the heat, with, probably not enough food in their tummies and all, like they'll do whatever they can to get there because it's so important to them. So just providing an opportunity for learning and, the kids do the work, they do they put in all the effort. They show up every day and they learn. And that's really cool to see too. Because it's not like we're just building a structure and like, that's it. Like these kids get super excited about the opportunity and that part's really cool too.
Yeah. And it's inclusive as well. Yeah. Like one of the most amazing and inspirational stories, to the point that I had to take a walk and have a proper cry, was when the earthquakes happened in Lombok here. And, we went over there and we're in the disaster zone seeing how destroyed the place was. And we had heard the story about this young boy who was disabled and his whole family's house was flat and they survived and his wheelchair was destroyed. He can't walk, right? And the story came up to us about this boy who was dragging his body through the rubble like 500 meters to a kilometer down the road to get to a temporary makeshift school just to be with his mates, just to learn. And like the power of the human spirit, right? They've just been rocked by major earthquakes. People have died and the whole space looks like bombs have gone off. And that really touched me. And that showed me the spirit of these young kids. And
he got a wheelchair.
He got a wheelchair, yeah. We actually gave...
a happy ending. That's good.
We gave him Southeast Asia's first sustainable bamboo wheelchair. That's right. Through our friends, who's Bradley Morland. He's actually our COO. He worked with an organization to make a proper bamboo one, and we went and delivered it to that boy, and he was so stoked.
Amazing. So freaking cool. Hey, if I can, you're here on the podcast Date Forever, where we really chat about dating yourself and getting to know yourself in a really intimate way, so that you can also actively date your partner. Duncan, you talked a little bit about that soul journey that you went on to uncover a little bit more purpose and get to know why you're here on this planet and what you're here to do. If there's someone who's got that little niggle and they're like, I know that there's something else, I know that I'm here to do something, but they haven't figured out what it is.
Yes.
Is there something you can share from both of your journeys to how do we uncover purpose?
Yeah, that is a great question. From my side, I would say that when you have that niggle And to me, the first thing is life is pretty amazing, right? You never know what lies around the corner. There's challenges, there's everything. But really deep down, life can be extraordinary if you put your mind towards anything, right? And if you've got that niggle, persist with it. Don't give up. Turn it into a habit. It takes 21 days to form a habit. If you do something over and over again, and then it becomes second to none, and you just keep focusing with all your energy, eventually momentum starts to work with you. Energy starts to work with you. And when you're creating something, whether it be an organization, whether it's a startup, whether it's a campaign, whether you're working in a corporation, many people I know love working in corporate and they're passionate about it. And so I don't want to take that away from that. This was my own experience and my own journey. And you don't have to work for a charity to find purpose in your life. You can find purpose in everything. My greatest measure of finding purpose is I never feel like I'm working. I feel like I'm actually doing what I'm supposed to be doing on this planet. I enjoy myself. I have fun. I have challenges. If there weren't challenges, it would be boring, and that helps us grow. That helps us learn. Those experiences are there for us to grow and learn and develop in our life journey. So to me, persistence is so powerful, and not giving up. And even on the days where you're being kicked on the ground and it feels like the charity is going to fall over. And trust me, this is not a rosy cherry on an ice cream organization that we built here. We literally fell over and nearly went insolvent 8 times, 9 times on our knees,
20.
Begging and pleading, committing some of our own personal resources and funds. And to me, you do whatever it takes, and never give up. And even on those days when it's tough and it's challenging, is don't give up on your dream. And you never know what else comes out of searching for that dream. There's so many other bespoke journeys that could kick off. It's maybe just a catalyst towards something else. You meet the right person at the right place at the right coffee table. Something extraordinary happens in that spark. So those are my measures, is knowing that I never feel like I'm working in my job and I'm doing something that I really love. And it doesn't matter whether it's charity, corporates, selling flowers on the side shop, it doesn't matter. So yeah, that's my 2 cents.
Yeah, incredible. And Nick, what about yourself?
I think that purpose can feel like a really almost daunting word for some people, like that they feel like maybe in their day-to-day lives they're not living their purpose. And I think that Duncan's story is quite unique, to have gone out and had an experience where he did set an intention and he found what he was looking for, but it might not always be so obvious or like something that actually comes and presents itself to you in that way. And I think if somebody's feeling within themselves like they're longing to do something differently, or they just feel like, I know I'm here on this planet to be doing something, and I don't know what that thing is, or I haven't found it yet, or I don't know how to do it, or whatever. To me, it's meditation and silence and going within. I think we so often go without to try to find solutions. We look to what are other people doing? What are other, how, and going just out into the world. And I just think that if more and more people find space for themselves to go into their own hearts, into their own inner knowing, it's there. That truth is there. And it doesn't always have to be this grand, elaborate thing. It can be as simple as being the change that you want to see in the world, like starting with yourself and just doing simple changes within your day-to-day life that you'd like to see a ripple effect of in the world, like kindness and love and gratitude and compassion. And I love that quote by Mother Teresa about, if you want to change the world, go home and love your family, because I think it's just so true. Like, if you can be that in your own life, in your own home, there is a ripple effect, and it might be subtle, but it's there. And the more you can still yourself, the more you can quiet yourself, the answers are there.
And we so agree with you. We fly the flag for better relationships, equaling a better world, because if we can go home and love our family and we can nourish the relationships that we're in, the world just continues to get bigger and better. But Nick, earlier you mentioned talking about the transition from sports journalism to your pursuit of that, and then realizing that what you really wanted to do had nothing to do with that. Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Yeah, sure. I actually never really tried to pursue sports media. It sort of found me. When I did my journalism degree, my intention with it was to really, because I'd already finished degrees in sociocultural anthropology and English, and when I was traveling, I realized just how much I loved applying my anthropological knowledge to like everything. And, that I have a real sensitivity to cultures and I really want to understand the differences between how people live, without judgment or and that's hard to do, because we're all conditioned to think that our way is right or better or whatever, So I love traveling and putting on that lens of like, it's not better, it's not worse, it just is. And then I think when I was traveling, I had this dream that like perhaps I would work for National Geographic or something like that. So that's kind of why I went into journalism. I wanted to write and learn the art of writing and put that into something cultural. But when I was in the program, it wasn't all like you did everything in this program. It was, you did on air, you did editing, you did shooting on, I learned video skills and photography, like the whole works, right? And in that process, my mentor through the program realized that I had a strong on-air presence, and she was really encouraging of me doing on-air stuff. And then from her encouragement and her support, I landed an internship in the sports media at the CFL, which was just an opportunity that was too good to pass up. Like, even though sports has never been my passion, I knew that the experience I would gain from that, like doing live games in front of, crowds of thousands and thousands of people, like I was like, this has to lead to something, right? It has to be good. And I had a lot of fun. I learned a lot. I got to travel around Canada a bit, and I learned so many skills. I'm actually a pretty shy person, and that definitely made me step out of my comfort zone and just have fun with it. And I really did learn a lot. But when I was in Cambodia with Duncan on that first trip that we took together, and it was back in Southeast Asia, like back where we met, back where I'd kind of had all these realizations in the first place about why I wanted to get into journalism and why I wanted to tell stories. Like, there's just so many beautiful stories to be shared in this world. And Southeast Asia is the place that helped me to realize I wanted to do that to some degree. So when we were back there and I saw what Duncan had started, it was this knowing in my heart. I was just like, this is why he had to do his journey. And this is why I had to do mine, because I needed those skills. I needed to go and get those skills so that I could do this, because this is what I'm supposed to be doing. Even though it was hard for me to give up my life at that time. And like, there was, I guess, the story around like, oh, what if this doesn't work? And, I have just started this career and, it's kind of great. Even if it's not my passion, it's pretty cool and lots of fun and could lead to some big things. And, there was all of that happening, but then it was, but what's going to light me up? What's going to spark that joy? And that was the decision maker, I guess.
Amazing. So the two of you are business partners, you're romantic partners, and you're on this big mission to change the world, really. I would love to know, how has having a purpose outside of yourselves influenced your relationship?
I suppose from my perspective on that, I've always felt like we're really on the same team, not just in our relationship, but in like what we're trying to achieve in this world. Our mission for quite a long time has been really aligned, and that's helpful, and not to say that if you were in a relationship that your passions are, night and day and totally different, that you can't have the same amount of support and understanding for one another. But I think because we have been on the same mission, that just helps to keep us really aligned.
Yeah, Nick's right. We're on the same team. We've got our work and, we've got our family, our kids, and we've got our relationship as well. And I think we touch wood, like we've been quite blessed. We work really well together, and if there's disagreements, it's okay. We don't make a story in our head about it. It's just, we disagreed on that. Okay, what alternatives should we look at in terms of what we can do that's best for the kids with the schools that we're building? But to me, work and family life, a lot of people separate those two. For me, it's just life. And I actually prefer that it's all together. Is work is with our family. Aura was with us. Our daughter was with us when we built the world's first eco-block school in Lombok.
Indy was there too. She
Indy
just
was
couldn't
there.
help. She's only a baby.
And to me, to show my daughter that experience and have her with us on our work with us doing that, and I loved that, and I think of I learned it from Richard Branson actually in his books is, it's all just life. It's not separation. He's the same. Work, family, all of it. It's life, and you enjoy every experience with it. It's just how you try to work on nurturing the relationships. And we have had times where it's not easy, where we're so in the work or we've got urgent things we're trying to deliver. It's easy to, forget about ourselves. We're so busy with the kids as well, and kids require our attention. And by the time it's 7 or 8 o'clock at evening and they're asleep and we're knackered and we're like,
just want to go to bed.
Right? But it's all life, and I think it's us just keeping each other in check and having conversations with each other and just saying, hey, let's go out for a date, or we set up a date with each other and we don't talk about the kids and we don't talk about Classroom of Hope, and we just check in and just see how we're doing, and have a glass of wine and
it's
chat.
not perfect,
No.
it's
Gosh, no.
not. We lose that balance all the time.
Yes,
all the time.
Yeah.
But it's calling each other out on when we've lost it and going, hey, we really haven't connected. We've been talking about work. We've been talking about the kids. We've been talking about life. We really haven't connected. And having that check-in, I think when you don't check in, when these things go out of whack or out of balance, that's when, the stories start, right? And then that's when communication breaks down. And then that's when communication breaks down, things get heavy and things can escalate.
Yeah.
And I think that having those moments where you just go we haven't talked about that thing, or we haven't checked in with each other, or, doing that from time to time is really valuable, because life does happen, and life with kids is crazy, and running a business is crazy. And, sometimes we just forget, or we're too tired.
Yeah. And also being okay with sitting down and actually receiving help and support in that space. We're quite comfortable being able to sit in front of everyone and go, we've got our Reiki master, Sarah, in Perth. It's just this amazing woman. And when we're having major disagreements about things and we can't find a middle ground, we'll go to her, and she'll be such a neutral party and a support for us in trying to hear both sides, to bring us back together, to find that middle ground. Love's always there. That's definitely there. And we're always going to, we're human beings, we're never going to be perfect, and we're going to have disagreements. It's being able to have the tools to do these things, to try and resolve the issues, to help us grow and develop, which is essentially every day we're growing and developing in the relationship in life. And it's very, very easy, especially when you've got kids, where you can lose that, Indy's up a lot at night at the moment, so I can't sleep in the room with Nick. I'm in the room with Aura.
And I'm in the other room not sleeping with the baby.
She's an amazing mama, by the way.
But it's just the chapter we're in right now. It's the chapters,
right? And each chapter has its experiences, and it's having those tools with each other. And, Nick and I have done little things like, what was those books we read? The
love languages?
The 5 love languages, understanding what Nick's love languages are. I didn't know that, and that was a new experience for me. So I learned something. Probably the biggest thing I learned is women don't always want a solution. Which is us men, right? We always want to provide a solution. Sometimes they just want to be hugged or be held, or just told it's going to be okay, rather than a solution. Or just listen, and I hand on my heart, I'm a big, I have to pull myself out of that sometimes, because I'm so programmed into trying to find a solution for everything. And I have to pull myself back and just remember that, it's not just about the solutions. It's sometimes a person just needs a hug, or just a conversation, or just an ear to listen. So it's, is that relationships require work and effort. And if you do the work and the effort, it's actually quite amazing. It's not this easy breezy all the time,
The juice is worth the squeeze.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Yes.
So before we wrap up, I'd just love to know one thing, probably from both of you. What's your number one tip for keeping a relationship fueled up?
We're terrible at doing this, but date nights. Honestly, for me, that's when it's just you two. You get to go and do something fun, like Duncan and I both love a good meal and a glass of wine, and making that time for real connection and real conversation, and just doing something, getting dressed up and feeling beautiful and handsome. And like, I think that just having that, it's important, especially as relationships go on and you've got little ones at home, and family dinners just aren't as relaxing as they used to be. It's a really lovely way to reconnect and keep that fire and that spark going.
Yeah, I love that.
Agreed.
And Duncan, one from you?
Communication. Talking is sometimes, especially based on my own experience, is in an early part of a relationship. If your partner's behaving in a certain way, it's very easy for us to create an assumption or a story of what might be going on, and then we create the story, but meanwhile it's actually nothing, and it's just a conversation or something else has happened. Is in those moments, rather than assuming something is wrong with you or the relationship, is actually just sitting down and having a conversation with that person. And whether you drink wine or not, sometimes when Nick and I have a disagreement, I'll pitch up with a wine and go, can we have a little chat about something?
Yeah. It's like the workplace equivalent, like step into my office. Except it's friendly because there's wine.
Takes the edge off.
Yeah.
This conversation has been so beautiful, and thank you so much for sharing about your epic love story, a little bit about Classroom of Hope and what you two are up to and how you're making your relationship keep fueled up so that you can keep creating this magic in the world. To say thank you, we normally make a contribution to a project on the Buy One, Give One community, but that's you. You are on the Buy One, Give One community. So to support you and to say thank you so much for the work that you're doing, we've made a contribution to your project. So we've grabbed 10 blocks of the recycled plastic waste to support the school build in Lombok.
That's amazing.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
Thank you for what you do. Thank you for what you are continuing to do. And thank you so much for joining us and being the change.
It was a lot of fun. Thanks for having us.
Thanks for the opportunity. I really appreciate it.
No worries. So Nicola and Duncan, if people want to connect with you or learn a little bit more about what you do, how should they do that?
You can go to our website. So that's classroomofhope.org. Or you can also follow us on social media. Our Instagram is @classroomofhope, and then Facebook, facebook.com/classroomofhope. Anywhere else?
LinkedIn, if you want to follow us on LinkedIn, also linkedin.com, Classroom of Hope.
Amazing.
Awesome. Thanks so much for joining us.
Thanks so much for having us.
Thanks, guys. Take care.
Thanks heaps for joining us. If you love what we're doing here and want more, subscribe to the Date Forever podcast to make sure you never miss an ep. Come and hang out with us and other awesome couples who are fueling up their relationships in the Thriving Couples Collective Facebook group, or check us out at fuelcollective.com.au. Until next time, keep on dating, because better relationships equal a better world.